Hello and welcome to this lecture on max aggregate function. The max aggregate function is used to return the largest value from a specified column. The way you would include the max aggregate function in a T-SQL query is by placing it after the select keyword, and then between the function parentheses you specify a column you want to perform the max aggregate function on, and then the from is where you define the table that contains the column. Let's connect to our SQL server via the SQL Server Management Studio. I have connected to my SQL Server via the SQL Server Management Studio, and there are a list of databases. The database we are going to use for this lecture is the AdventureWorks 2014 database. So let's click on the New Query tab, which is this tab here. So this is where we will write a query. Let's select the database we need from the database drop-down list. Click on that and select AdventureWorks. So that's the database we'll need to execute the query. Let's have a look at the tables in the database. So this is the AdventureWorks 2014. These are the schemas and tables. So let's look at the HR schema here. So I'm going to look at the HR schema and the employees table. All right, so the employees, this is the employee table from the human resources schema. So to illustrate how the max aggregate function works, I'm going to write a query that will check the maximum number of time employees have had as sick hours. Okay, so let's do that by starting with a select and then specify the column. Before I do that, let's do the table from human resources schema and then a dot. Then we can pick from the list of columns. I want the employees table. The from is always where you define the table. The columns are always defined in the select part of the query. So I've now defined my table and then my schema. So let's define the table. The table I want to use for this query. So after the select, I need to type in the keyword max, and then in the parentheses, I want to use the sick leave. Type in sick, which is this is the column I want to use, sick leave hours. Sick, okay, let's pick that up, that's there, and then close the parentheses. So I want to find out the number of maximum hours employees have taken off as sick leave. So I'm going to change the label for the output to as. The as is just an alias, it's just not a real name. I'm going to call it sicky. Okay, and then semicolon. Always best to end your statement in a semicolon. It's good practice. It will probably work without it, but I strongly advise you always end your statements with a semicolon. So this is a query. Let's execute that. So we've got an output of 80. So this is the temporary alias name we gave to the table, which is this here, the column, temporary column name. So in average, in the maximum number of hours employees have taken off as sick hours is 80. That is shocking. So someone has taken 80 hours of sick. That's the total, the maximum hours employees have taken off as sick leave. In this lecture, we looked at the max aggregate function, which is used to return the largest value from a specified column. We did an example with the HR schema and employees table, where we found that the maximum time or the largest value for sick leave hours. We use the max function to achieve a result from that. And this is the way we wrote the syntax. Specify the max function after the select keyword. In between the parentheses, we placed in the name of the column, which is sick leave hours. And then this is the table and the schema. So the schema was the HR table employee. Thank you so much for your time. Please do not hesitate to ask any questions. I'll be more than delighted to help. Thank you as always for your time and best wishes.